What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and the overall market. I'm also going to talk about some big factors that are going to affect the market going into tomorrow and beyond, what you should be watching for in the charts moving forward. Just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. Deposit $25,000 more and you're guaranteed 75. The offering's in 10 days. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So as far as NIO goes, NIO's looking a little bit weak on the daily time frame, but just note that we're starting to see some buyers trying to defend that $5 area. So we'll just have to see if they could hold that support or not, as it's going to be very, very pivotal for how this thing ends up continuing to move. So in my opinion, NIO could, attempt to base here in this $5 area, get a small little rebound, but it doesn't necessarily mean that NIO is safe from, the downside potential. It's still very bearish, at least when you look at the 4 hour and the daily time frames. So there is still some weakness there. So I just want to give you guys a heads up that there is, this trend on the chart that remains. We're going to be waiting for earnings to see if we could get some kind of bounce or not. But for now, we're just going to be very patient. For data about the broader markets, just note that tomorrow is going to be Monday, October 21st, 2024. In the morning, we have Logan giving a speech, not to mention Kashkari and Schmid. And that's pretty much it, at least for the Fed. There's not really much going on Monday, just a couple of Fed speakers, and that's pretty much it. Besides that, I'm not really seeing much else that's going on, at least for, the rest of the days of the week, at least in economic data. I also want to mention that for the week, we have very minor earnings for Monday, just a few of them like Logitech and beyond. But then for Tuesday, we have Verizon, GM, and a few more. And Wednesday's when we have AT&T, Coca-Cola, and Tesla. So Wednesday's going to be the biggest day for earnings of the week. But for now, Monday is going to be very minor. I also want to mention to everyone that right now there's about a 90.4% chance we get a 25 basis point cut by the Fed, or I'm sorry, a 50 basis point cut by the Fed. There's a 90.4% chance we get that for November 7th. And there's about a 9.6% chance we get a 25 basis point cut. So we'll see what the Fed ends up doing. Right now, the market remains very optimistic. We're at extreme greed right now, so be a little bit careful as the market goes higher. But so far, the buyers still have a bigger edge. We're at extreme greed in terms of our indicators, so be very mindful of that. And then also the puts and call option ratios at extreme greed, so be careful. So far, this is dipping a little bit lower as buyers are continuing to step in, and the puts are once again the ratio is kind of like dipping. So right now the market remains bullish, but just be careful at these high levels. As far as NIO goes, there's been some talk about how between January and September they exported about 1,083 vehicles. That's about 0.67% of its production numbers. So very, very low numbers, if anything. And that's just the honest truth, guys. NIO's overall international business is growing, but they're not exporting a whole lot of cars yet. It's going to take them many years to really get that up. Their main amount of sales come from China, as that's one of the biggest, or if not the biggest, EV markets on the planet. And for now, that's what they're prioritizing. So I want to make that very, very clear. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as their sales remain strong, we're going to be completely fine. Now, it's also, excuse me, it's also was mentioned that they're trying to expand to other regions, such as going to about the Middle East. So that's very important as they're continuing to expand their business. NIO is also kicking off the FSEC and FSAC Cups. Once again, helping their engineers develop new, race cars and very, very cool spirits amidst that. So they're trying to once again get that exposure, developing new technologies. It's very, very cool. JP Morgan is once again giving NIO an overweight rating, saying it's going to outperform the market eventually. And volume is only at about 66 million. So what is my view of the chart? Honestly, guys, we still look a little bit more bearish, but we are trying to base at $5. We could hit the 5.1 skin before it tries to rebound, but there could be a retest of about 5.4. So I do think it's going to try to rebound soon. It depends on if you can try to hold this support right here at $5. Then I'm going to be looking for an attempt to get back up to 5.4. I don't expect volatility to be too crazy, as you don't really have much going on for this week. Later on, things will get more wild. As far as Tesla goes, it's attempting to rebound a bit. I think we could be looking for a test of 222.5. I think that there's a chance it might try to push a little bit above that, getting closer to 225 for the week, because earnings comes out for Tesla on Wednesday. So there's a good chance that Tesla might see some more volatility, maybe even a slight increase in the share price. So we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. If we're bearish on Tesla, you want to see it lose 220 and start dipping, and then eventually, lose 217 and 215. But this looks like it's going to try to push a little bit higher for like 225 and then see a lot of consolidation. So far, so good. As far as SPY goes, I want to call out that The chart remains bullish despite the fact that we are technically in a rising wedge-like structure, but the chart remains bullish for now, and there's no sign of us getting that rejection. So this still has potential to try to test all-time highs, trying to get up to about 586. If we lose 582, look for 581. 582.1 is going to be our main support. If that fails, let's look for 580 and then 578 as the supports. This remains bullish. So there's a good chance we try to push for the 586 plus area, and we'll see how things end up going from here. For Nvda, if Nvidia loses 136, we're looking for basically 133 as our support, and we have resistance up here around 140. I think there's a good chance we try to push for the 140 target, and we'll see how things end up going from here. As far as Bitcoin goes, Bitcoin's looking more bullish as we're holding above our key support. As long as we hold above 68,000, we're going to be looking for a bigger push for 69,000 plus and eventually much higher levels. If 68,000 fails us, we're going to be looking for a dip back down towards 66,800. But overall, this looks a little bit more bullish to me. For other factors out there, we also happen to have NQ. NQ looks a little bit more bullish. If we were to lose 20,378, we're going to turn back down. But for now, I'm going to be a little bit careful because of the fact that we do have this resistance here. We came up to about 20,600, came down, made a lower high, came down. So are we about to push a little bit higher for 20,500? Can we break 20,600 to remain bullish, or are we going to see a little pop and drop? I think we're going to be pushing a little higher to at least above 20,500, but we'll have to see if we could break that resistance at 20,600 or not. If we come short, there's a risk of it coming down, getting another rejection, so just be careful. This is a little bit more risky than that of the S&P 500. QQQ has the same thing that's going on. It's still bullish in this wedge-like structure. As long as we don't lose 492 and 490, we remain more bullish. I could see an attempt to get up to about 495, and then we'll see what happens after that. I'll be watching this as well very, very carefully. The chart remains more bullish. So it looks like it's going to be pushing for 496, but just be careful because the last time we hit that, we did reject. But look for a little bit of a push, tomorrow morning, and we'll see how it reacts. As far as Aapl goes, just be careful because the last time it hit 240, it did reject off this resistance. So it could be forming a giant cup right now. I also want to call out that we have a gap down here to fill. If Aapl cannot hold above 237, we're looking for a dip back down to about 232. I think there's a chance it might actually dip a little bit. It might push first to 237, then it might dip afterwards. So just be careful. That makes me suspect the market may do something very similar. For other factors, we have the IWM. The IWM has a double top. It's looking a little bit more bearish. Might be looking for a test of 224.5. For AMD, AMD is also looking kind of flat right here. It's kind of declining a bit as long as we don't break. As long as it doesn't hold 155, it's going to consolidate. But if 155 fails us, I do see a risk of us coming down to 152, then the gap fill back down to like 149. For ARM is making a lower high. If we end up losing 150, we're looking for a dip back down towards 142. I think there's a risk of us dipping back down to the mid 140s, so just be very mindful of that. Coinbase is trying to push for now. Look at 220 as a tough resistance. However, if it breaks that, I think we could go a little higher and try to make our way up to this imbalance towards 225, just about here. So we'll see if 220 breaks. There is still some potential in this. Amazon's consolidating. If we hold above 188, we're looking for the 190s. I think there's a good chance we push up for that. But this looks like a double top for now. So what I'm thinking is we might dip first about 187. We'll see if we bounce off that or not. So look for a small dip. For Meta, we're on a bit of a downtrend here. We do have this imbalance down here to fill. So 582 is likely going to be coming. For Microsoft, we're kind of consolidating. We're going to likely see a test of 418, just lots of sideways price action. There's not really much going on with it. And for Google, if we don't break past 166, we're going to likely be dipping back down to 163. So I see a risk of downside for that. So as far as the market goes, I think that the market could attempt to go a little higher, but just be careful because we're going to be hitting some tough resistance and the market may dip lower. NIO is going to likely attempt to rebound for 5.4. So look for 5.1, then 5.4 to be tested. But then once we hit that, there's no guarantee we break past our 200 EMA, and we could reject just from there. With that being said, guys, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Please have a great day. NIO might see a small rebound, but just be careful because we could still reject off 5.4. So I wouldn't turn overly bullish, overly bearish. Just wait and see how it reacts to 5.4. Look for a pop and drop. Once it rejects, be careful, guys. I just want to give you guys a heads up about that. Please have a great day, and I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow on the next one. Have a great weekend, and peace out.